It's 5:30. I'm going to call this meeting to order. We're going to start with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Public notification of this meeting has been published, posted, and distributed in compliance with the South Carolina Freedom of Information Act. I need a motion to approve the agenda.
Motion to approve.
Motion, second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
I need a motion for the approval of the minutes of October 26th, 2023.
Move approval.
I have a motion. Do I have a second? I have a second. Any corrections, changes, amendments?
Yeah, just one. Just, I guess the Scribner, number 8. Jim Armstrong.
Formerly.
Yeah.
Right. You got that, Jared? Okay. All right, with that correction, anything else? Nothing else? May I have a motion to approve the minutes?
We got that.
Got it?
All the questions.
So all in favor of approving the minutes, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, thank you. All right, today's meeting is going to be focused on what I'm calling kind of a strategy planning effort. We've had 3 meetings, 2 of which I attended, where Jared has and staff and others have gone through a lot of the basic data that we have to think about, a lot of the ideas that are out there, a lot of the things that are important, and the opportunities that we think we might have. So it's now, Jared has told me he's not going to open his mouth again, except if there is a question to be answered, but so it's on us. I sat down and wrote down these kind of questions that I think I'd like to kind of work our way through. I think the most important ones early on are question really number 3, and there are 2 questions. We have 3 particular sales taxes out there we can work with, and which one do we start with? Which one should we start with? Let's assume it's all equal. I will say that if the school board referendum does not pass, that may affect discussions as we go forward. We may decide that that's important enough that we need to push that hard, but let's assume it's going to pass. So we'll just talk about what those options ought to be. And the second question is, how do we decide the length of the ask and the amount of the ask for each of the questions? The other questions down there I think are pretty obvious. And some of them, particularly number 5, in terms of the enactment of proposed legislative changes to some of these statutes. And there are issues relative, I think we ought to talk through the issue of using the lost formula for allocation. And to me, there's some questions about that. And the issue of sharing revenues that we pull in from Beaufort County sales taxes with folks from other counties. That's a question I think we've got to talk about. But I'd like to focus today really on question number 3. So first, are we okay? Have we got everything we need? Is there more information that we need from the staff in preparation for this? Do we understand our role, et cetera? And I guess the first question, my question is from Jared's perspective, where do our responsibilities end? When we produce like we did last time, a memo to council or a written recommendation to council that can be presented to them, is that it for us? Or in your mind, will we assume or continue being responsible for other things associated with this?
So I think that would depend on council, but my opinion would be that you have met the assignment and the task. Then depending on what you recommend, a good for instance may be the program projects. How do we go about developing the criteria for that? I could see that as an additional assignment, whether it's this committee, whether it's a separate committee. But I think the task at hand, I think the presentation to council with the recommendations would be the conclusion of this as it is today. And then as this moves forward, and if council decides to take your recommendation, you are all informed citizens at that point, and y'all are armed with a lot of great information that you are more than willing to share. But as a formal group, I would say the presentation to council.
Okay. Does that seem reasonable to everybody?
Yes, sir.
Okay,
Dean, I've got a question, just a philosophical question, I guess, is that after the work we did last year or year before last, whenever we did it, we presented that to council at that point, and council, I don't know if they rejected it, but I know they took they did an alternative, right?
they unanimously passed it on first reading,
Right.
which was surprising, I think, to people. I mean, there were people who thought that there were members of council who were not about to support this.
Right.
But I think the argument we made was strong enough that they decided to go ahead and pass it on first reading. And so I thought, hey, we're rolling. And then along comes our beloved senator and
Derailed.
sideline.
Okay, so are we understanding that we have the support of council at this point, since they came up with the resolution to establish the committee, and philosophically they're in support of what's being considered as far as improving the transportation system in our region or in our county?
Well, so I can answer this way. When they ended up taking green space, transportation was the other alternative. And basically what they've told staff is no for now, but not forever. Here's some investment funds to get started on the projects that you've developed with the committee, and get started on these, and we'd like to come back in 24 and look at this. So at the beginning of 23, at our strategic retreat, sales tax was brought up as a topic, of which everything that I've shared with you guys was shared at that point. So the interest for roads, I believe, is still there at the council level. The other ideas, I think that would be a question that they'd have to wrestle with themselves. But I think they're interested in getting a recommendation of sorts from this committee so they can react to it.
And from your professional position, you think there is still a big need out there that will?
I don't think traffic's got any less since last year. So, I think there's an appetite, as I mentioned too before. We didn't hear it from all the municipalities until it got swapped with green space. Now I think everybody's in favor of green space, but they really wanted the roads once the roads got removed. So I think the municipalities still share that same feeling. But that's, I guess.
Well, if I could add to that, as Bluffton's appointee, I communicate regularly with the town manager and the mayor on what we've met about and where we're headed, and get input from them on how they want me to best represent the town of Bluffton's interests, as well as the county as a whole. And there was extreme disappointment when it was stopped. Yeah. And I mean, I have a meeting with the town manager next Wednesday to go over progress to this point. So and I hope the other towns are actively involved like that as well.
Yeah, I can speak for Beaufort and Port Royal, and they're both kind of preoccupied right now with mayoral issues, but they are very, very interested in what we're doing.
And that may be a point I think you get to later, Dean, but we've got municipal representatives, but we've also got unincorporated representatives. So just as you're talking to your group, the unincorporated representatives are more than welcome to do the same thing. I mean, we have one county council member that's been vividly watching as much as she could, to the point where we weren't making a good reproduction online. So anyhow, but I don't know that the others are listening to these discussions. So that's encouraged.
That's a good point.
Okay,
Okay.
my next question is, are we all real clear on sales taxes? Particularly what's would not be taxed?
I am not. I
So-
wouldn't mind a review.
So Jared, what is not subject to sales tax here?
Ooh, I've got this. I printed out and then forgot to give everybody. I went over it briefly, but basically the foods like non-prepared foods in the grocery store, medicine, utilities, housing, gas. Those are the bigs.
When you say housing, you mean rents?
Rents, yes, sorry, rents.
And gas is not taxed.
Gas is not taxed as sales tax, it's taxed as gas tax, which is, there's a state and a federal gas tax separate from a local option sales tax, sales and use tax.
So clothing, computers, furniture, all
Restaurants.
that,
Restaurants, yes,
hotels.
yes. And,
Okay.
and I have this, I can make copies and provide or email.
All right, well, that's important to know, I think.
And nonprofits, a lot of the work that nonprofits do, if it's any taxed goods, are exempted as well.
So you mean like if you go to Goodwill and buy something, it's not?
No, but like if they're doing, for instance, meals provided by elderly or disabled persons at home by a nonprofit organization,
Okay.
and water and utilities, public utilities. So there's not a real one source where all this information, so this document goes all through the different statutes and tells where exemptions are here and some here and some here. Now, I'll make sure you provide copies.
Okay, good. All right, so the fundamentals that we start with, I think. We've got three types of taxes. We've got the transportation tax, we've got the capital projects tax, and we've got the education tax. Those are the three we focused on, for which Jared has provided us lots of information. I guess the question to me is, what you start with is it come down to, what do we need most? What's the greatest need in the county? And that's probably debatable from every perspective. Some town may say, we want this, and the county says, no, we gotta have roads, we've gotta get 278 fixed, or we've gotta get this done. Somebody else says, no, we need to do this over here or that over there. But I think from our perspective, we need to kind of talk through that a little bit so we understand, what the implications are of whatever decision we make. We did transportation initially, and it's all right there in our packet of our 1 penny for 25 years with 5% growth, gives us $3.25 billion. And the projects that are shown are really a restatement of the projects that we did last year in '22. Reorganized a little bit. Numbers have been, I think, kicked up a little bit, Jared, based upon your perspective on how costs have increased. So those are pretty clear, and the arguments that we made and talked about still apply. That essentially, we raise this much money, we'll have money for a pretty long period of time. Collecting, if we do this over 25 years with 5% growth, if we do it for 10 years or if we do it for 15 years, whatever it is, we'll be having cash flowing into here for a lot. And basically, the two, we would bond and use those taxes, I assume, to raise immediate cash to go for immediate projects. And then over time, we would be having more money coming in, which would be going into the pots and into the pools for projects which are not specifically defined in the big project list, but which are considered critical and are listed in our project programs. So it's fairly clear to me how that's gonna work. I mean, that's a fairly straightforward effort. And for people that are into transportation, it's easy to understand and easy to explain. I think we were able to do it last year. The capital penny, a little more complicated. But the nice thing about the capital penny is that if we do it, the way we've laid this out, the way Jared has laid this out, using the local option sales tax allocations, municipalities, all the governments can look at that project proposal and say, ooh, there's something serious in there for me. And I can figure out, I can spend, Bluffton can say, there's $53 million in there for Bluffton. And Bluffton can say, we got all the places to spend that, we know we can. And the county itself, $287 million. So that may be an easier sell, at least at the municipal levels, for these types of projects.
What's the term of years on that?
Well, the one that he's proposed is 1 penny for 8 years with 5% growth rate. And that's the max we can do that with right now.
That's right.
So that raises, that comes up, the other question that I had in the list is, if we want to do it for longer than 8 years, if we think if we're going to do this, we're going to do it for 25 years, do we wait until legislature considers and passes an amendment to that statute, which enables us to go a lot longer than 8 years with that tax? So if we go now,
Are we close to that amendment at this point?
was it going to be introduced?
It won't be introduced this year.
That's right, can't.
This is the second year,
Has to go,
so it would
has to
not
wait.
until January 25
Right.
would be his first opportunity for introduction.
And is he going for 25 years?
No, so this was kind of news to me. Chairman Passett was the one that informed me that at the Association of Counties, some legislator, I'm not sure what part of the state, was introducing the idea of making them like 12 or 15 years on all of them. So including transportation.
So marking that down from 25 years to 12 to 15 and making them all the same.
Yes, I would propose a legislation to make them all at 25.
Me
But
You're a tax and spender, so.
that's right. And there's
Plus, he doesn't want to see us.
No, he's right. He's
well, so
a long-range planner.
there's this thing called home rule, and some people where home rule is basically local power versus state power, and people have a difference of opinion on how that should be administered.
And your thought is, give us the local control, give us the 25 years, let us do with whatever we have to do.
I think that would make a lot of sense.
All right.
But the main point is,
But I'm not a
It's 8
if
years
we're-
now.
Yep.
Do we wait for it to be 12 or 15 years?
right,
And that amendment's not gonna come forward until sometime in 25,
Well considered.
as well as
considered.
the definition change that I proposed with the economic development and affordable housing. That is currently not an applicable use.
Right.
And I have it as a draft. It's not in anybody's hands, and it would not be introduced at least until 2025 at the earliest.
so if we propose to start with that, to vote it, put it on the ballot for a vote in '24, we would be limited to 8 years.
It would be limited to 8 years, and that would not be an opportunity, the economic development and affordable housing, as it's not allowed in current statute.
Okay.
If I could say though, my opinion, one of six, I don't think we should delay consideration of any of these taxes based on what we hope the state will do in changing terms. If we feel that it makes sense, even though we wish we could do it for 15 instead of 8, I don't think we should count on state legislature changing it to 15 and delay it.
Well, 8's a floor. We know we got 8. So the worst thing that can happen is Columbia does nothing.
Right.
And we're still at 8.
Unless we wait, hoping that it'll go higher.
So I think there is merit in waiting to see, and we'll know early on in the general session whether there's support for this.
Yes, in capital, I think all 3 of them, education may not, no, I think just capital and transportation have to be a no. Let me get back to you. There's some of them that are only allowed in even years, and some of them can go any year. And I don't want to tell y'all wrong, but I'll dig into that.
All I'm saying, and I particularly on this capital one, I think we should really entertain not stacking these to the taxpayer at one time or to the county residents at one time for other reasons. I just don't know that we should delay on a hope that something will happen. If we can get it within a certain time frame, then by all means, we'll have the info.
That gives us 650 million, based upon the projection we have right now.
And that's at 8 years, a penny.
5% growth.
And Jared, the green penny goes off
December
At
31st.
December 31st, 2024, or sooner if it's collected prior to that.
the amount, right?
And at this rate, with our initial numbers, it is collecting higher than anticipated.
All right, so that's a key question to me, is how that works. And then the education one,
It's not always.
We'll know a week from today.
yeah, we will know.
But if it
That one is
If
not
it does pass, that's the operating one, as opposed to this is the capital one?
No,
No, what they're looking at is capital money.
Yeah. And
In-
this
in-
one would be operating.
This one would be capital too.
Operating is second home and investment home. Primary don't pay it, so that's why this would be capital only.
Operating is called a school district sales tax. And then this one's called education capital. So it's only for capital assets.
And they're already doing it. They're doing it right
If
now.
the
No.
voters pass 439 million a week from today, they won't turn around and pass another.
But what they're doing, that's separate than sales tax. What they're about to vote on next week is property tax.
Right.
Straight property tax.
But an average
Joe Blow would think it is.
An average voter is gonna go, I just voted for this, why am I voting for another?
You're right.
I have a related question to that, though. Just curious, if the voters approve this 400 and change million, and can this tax pay off that 400 and change as part of it?
Yes.
So you turn around and tell the voters your property tax is gonna go down,
You could.
and that's paid off.
Theoretically, if it voted yes this year on their property tax geo bond next week, then, and I think education can be on odd and even years. And then you could come in 23 theoretically, excuse me,
5.
we're in 23 now. You could just come in 24 or 25 and offer that, and it would reduce what they just paid if they chose to.
And tourists would pay 40+% of those dollars.
Yes.
And to be devil's advocate, so would the poor people that don't own homes. They don't see a benefit.
The other question is though that they could take this penny and use for other things.
They
Other
don't
than-
have to pay the debt off.
Right, they don't have to
Could
pay
the
the
wording
debt.
of the referendum be such that it would pay that off? That's what I was
Yes.
asking.
Yeah, you could word the question appropriately, that it does state that specifically, because it is a specific use. If you, just like we're listing projects on any of those, you could say defrayment of existing debt, of said amount of debt, however you wanted to word that. I think that could be listed as a specific project element.
Okay,
So, yeah, it does depend on what happens with the voters.
Right.
So if they say no to it, then do we really consider doing it again?
well, if they say no to the property tax, then the question comes, if you vote for the, with respect to what you said, if you vote for the sales tax,
It's gonna do away.
we'll do the same thing with that. And, I mean, for 15 years with 5%, it's $1.5 billion, which means you pay off any other existing debt you've got.
How much?
It's, well, according.
1.5 billion, yeah.
1.5 billion.
Thank you.
For a penny over 15 years. And again, the tourists will pay 50%. So from the perspective, you know, it's a significant benefit to the taxpayers in Beaufort County. But as
And
you
it-
indicate, I mean, if you don't have a home, you're still gonna be
Still
paying
gotta
those
pay,
taxes.
right.
That's a consideration we have to do, but on the flip side, for those of us residents that do have homes, it's gonna significantly chip away at, I don't even know what our school debt, millage is right now.
I don't have it in front of me, yeah.
The example y'all had last week of how it reduced it,
Mhm.
was it York County or wherever?
Yeah, York County went from 25 mils to 10 mils, kept it at 10 mils for 15 years. And then when asked what would happen if they didn't renew the penny, they did the calculations and said to generate enough money for our planned expense, it would go from 10 mils to 55 mils.
Well, the difference in the two approaches is that what they're doing next week, the property owners bear 100% of the burden versus spreading that burden a lot wider.
One other consideration for that just occurred as you were saying that is, we've heard for years, people that have second homes, investment homes in this county are being taxed to death. I mean, we know the 6% rate is really double what the 4% rate is. If this happens, as opposed to what we're voting on next Tuesday, that will actually be relief to second home and investment people as well, and that'll help that industry. I don't know if we need to consider it or not, but it's just another.
Next week too is not just second homes, but personal property.
Yeah.
So you may be a renter, but you own 2 vehicles. So that is on property tax.
That's true.
And a boat.
Oh.
All right,
Yep.
so we've got those 3 options. Transportation tax that we are all very familiar with, and the capital penny, which has significant advantages for the specific advantages to the municipalities if we do it the way we've suggested. And we didn't even talk about the notion of monies into USCB, monies into TCL, both of which would be a
That's the
beneficiary
educational tax,
of
right?
that tax.
Are you, that's the education one, not the capital
That's the
projects?
education
Okay.
one, right? And I guess there's a question there. If we were to do the capital penny,
I know what you're about to ask.
could those dollars, some of those dollars, go to TCL or USCB
For the school district.
or the school district?
So here's the uses. I'm gonna read the building type uses, but not the highways, roads, or water and sewer. Courthouses, administration buildings, civic buildings, hospitals, emergency medical, police, fire, jails, correctional, detention, libraries, coliseums, educational facilities under the direction of an area commission or technical education.
So it
So
sounds like
I would think,
college only, it sounds like.
I'm not sure what that specifically means, but that's
Read the
how it
last
reads.
ones again.
Yeah.
The last phrase, is educational facilities under the direction of an area commission for technical education.
Just technical?
Technical college, basically.
That's it.
That's what I heard.
And then cultural, recreation, historical. Jointly operated projects of the county, a municipality, special purpose district, and school district, or any combination of those entities for the projects delineated in A through G. So you can do a project, it says school district. I guess if a school district has a recreational facility, I would presume. It'd be close. To answer your question, could you just straight up do a TCL building, possibly a USC, I don't know, and a school district, new school, I'm not sure.
But you could do a technical wing on a.
Technical sounds pretty slam dunk.
Straightforward, yeah.
The others,
Is a convocation part of our cultural or?
recreational,
community? Yeah, I mean, I don't know.
yeah,
And
so
then
those
you
would be
say-
fine lines that we'd have to
And then
seek legal counsel.
And then you look at all the schools, remember we talked about how they all have pools, you know, community.
And it could be a portion of a said project, not the whole project, if you split it up like that.
So. Now, the other alternative, one alternative is we say, okay, let's do capital, let's do a transportation at half a penny and do a capital at half a penny. And,
Education.
yeah, we would have we're subject to a maximum of 3 pennies, right? That's,
What's that?
we can't,
Maximum of 3
we
pennies.
can't do any more
Three
than
single pennies
3%.
maximum.
That's correct. And so you can't do transportation for a penny and a half. You can only do transportation up to a penny.
But you could do capital and make it all transportation for a penny.
You could.
So you could technically get 2 cents.
Yep.
I lose you on that one?
You could
Give
do.
me a look.
So you can do what? No, I didn't hear you.
The capital one, you can use for transportation. So you
Right.
could do capital and make it all transportation for a penny and transportation for a penny. So you could technically get 2 pennies of transportation. I think it's a workaround, but.
Yeah. If you really wanted to do it, I think you could make that argument.
But if I could, my challenge I've been wrestling with on this is I just visualize if we, and I don't know if we're going down this road or not, but if we have 3 referenda on the same ballot for a penny, a half a penny, a quarter penny each, doesn't matter what the amount is. My fear is we're gonna have some of the voters that are gonna come in and say, oh, I want the roads, but I don't believe in education and capital. Then you're gonna have others that are gonna say, I want capital, I don't believe in education and roads. And you're gonna have the third group that does that, and you're gonna see all 3 of them fail. Because none of them got enough votes to pass. That's my fear.
I completely understand it.
So you're and leaning towards going all in on one and praying that we get it.
No, you can't, well, the thing I'm struggling with is staggering them if we're gonna do multiple ones. I think these are all very valid taxes. I just don't know if bringing all 3, maybe it is bring 2, but bringing all 3 at one time is a good idea.
Do we have any historical data as far as what he's talking about ever being a hindrance?
Not that I'm aware of that we put 3 out on at one time, or I'm not sure if we put multiple. We've had multiple referendum questions, but I don't know if it's specifically to tax. For instance, in 21, we had a a lost local option sales tax and a change of government. So the change of government, it was basically to take the treasurer and the auditor, instead of elected positions, they were underneath the administration.
And that failed, correct?
That failed, and the local option sales tax failed, but it wasn't 2 pennies at one time, it was just 2 referendums.
We had a school bond and a transportation one year, I think.
That was 18 and 19, those are 2 separate.
Two separate
And
years.
transportation,
I thought it was like
Transportation was
6.
in 18. Oh, maybe, I don't know as much as the older one, so I had a
Thanks
list.
for that.
I had a historical breakdown before of, so we talked about in 96, we did transportation and failed, 98 it passed, 2004 we did something, I think capital, and it failed. We've done capital a couple times and it's failed. And 2006 we did transportation and it passed. I don't know if anything was done until 2014, something failed, 2016, something failed, 2018, transportation passed, 2019 was the school district, 2021, local option sales tax failed, and 2022, green space passed.
But, and the school district one failed.
School district passed in 19
In 19
for
it passed.
350 million. I'm not sure prior to that one what other school district bonds they've had.
It's about a 50-50, by my memory, it's about a 50-50 pass rate on school bond referendums.
And in 19, that was the first half of what he needed. Next week is the second half.
Yeah, they created a $700 million facilities master plan, and yeah, they split it in. That would be one thing I would offer. However the committee goes is, if you decide on a long-term approach, that's part of the education, that this is the umbrella or the direction, and this is how we want to bring it out. So if the plan ever comes back, well, 3 is hard to do in 1 year, let's do 1, 2, 3, or whatever that looks like. Make that known up front rather than, we got another one to vote on second year, another one to vote on the third year. But if you tell them, we're gonna come to you this year, we're gonna come to you next year, and we're gonna come to you next year so we can get this full evolution, I think that would be more palatable. Not to say you do it that way, but if you decide to do more than one tax, tell everybody what your intent is
Transparency
Be
and
clear about it
education.
all the way through.
and and not only what your intent to put on a ballot as a referendum, but what your intent is for the full evolution. Like, we intend to make it 15 years, we're gonna do these types of projects, and we're gonna do it by implementing A, B, C, in some form or fashion, so.
What is the most critical for us at this point is where I'm looking to go. You know, what we did in 2022 was probably the most critical, is what was presented as our basic needs. And we sort of delayed that effort primarily because of the green space referendum. This was always critical to our successes, to the quality of life in our area. And I don't think we want to murk the water just because we have the opportunity. I'm just basically saying, let's push this, let's push
Go with
the
transportation.
let's push the transportation out there because we've already done the work on it. We think we've got people were looking for some changes and people were expecting for it to come forward, but we got bumped because the green space was a softer candy to eat or to suck on, and I really think the transportation component is what we really need to focus our energy on.
Dean, I think he's right. The people that I've spoken with on the island, to include the island leadership, when asked about 3, they say absolutely not. Asked about 2, same answer. Asked about 1, they say it's got a chance. It all depends upon how we present it and how we market it.
Okay,
And the other point, Jared has said that they've already started some work on some projects that we had on the list before, and that can be, I guess, added to what we're doing now, or I should say what we're trying to do now. We added to that list and said we need to get this finished, folks. We really need to get these things finished instead of us trying to be Santa Claus this year.
Well, Jared, in a space of a year or year and a half, you found 60 million more for this tax. When you take the green space out of the 22 tax,
Say that again, I'm sorry.
in the 22 proposal and memo written by Dean, it had 16 million in for green space. So that's found money in this new tax.
Well, it's still in there in this new one,
I think the difference
60 in there.
is I was able to get the data from the state. I didn't have that data at the conclusion of the recommendations, and I feel very strongly and confident that we were undershooting with the 10-year $700 million of what that would produce.
Oh.
So if we produce the same 10-year recommendation, it's a $950 million.
Yeah.
And so you've produced $250 million that otherwise would not have made it last year.
And the other point too, if we can convince the public, or convince, not we, because we're just proposing, but if we can get this in place for 25 years, then we shouldn't have to worry about doing anything with transportation for another 25 years, because we've got the resources to accomplish that. That's just a long-range thinking that will supersede all of, I'm not going to speak for you and not going to speak for Ruff, but supersede the rest of us as far as being here.
In other words, we won't have to come to
We
another.
wouldn't have to
meeting.
worry about it. We wouldn't have to worry about it. I mean, I'm sick, but that's, I think, folks, I think that's the long-range plan and the most, I guess, the most respected one that I think the public would respect at this point.
Well, just a quick feel for the room. Does everybody else agree with that? I agree with transportation as being the top of the three.
Oh, yeah, no
Okay,
doubt,
you think so?
no
Yeah.
doubt. Transportation, top of the three.
I think the issue with transportation is what term? Does 25 years cause enough concern with a voter to nix it versus 15 years? Would somebody say, I can live with it for 15, but 25 is too long?
On that front, I don't know, there's two parts that may cause concern, is the number or the years. What's more scarier to the voter? I don't know the answer, but so 25 years would produce 3.25 and 15 would be 1.5 and 10 is 950. Is one of those elements more scarier than the other?
I wouldn't think so, because as long as you got production going down and people are seeing what that money's doing, and that money's not putting in work that we can feel, then you may have a problem. But some of our things have already been moving forward, and definitely every time you go out down the road, transportation is worse. Every time you go out there, every time I go out there, transportation is worse.
I have a thought for you all to consider. In 2017, I believe, the state passed a 12-cent gas tax hike. And it was phased in over 6 years, so 2 cents a year. 2023, at the end of fiscal year 2023, that was fully phased in. So there's 12 more cents every time you pay in the gas. I notice roads every day, so I'm not the right person to ask. But from driving around the area and the state, have y'all, one, noticed a difference in what you pay at the gas tank, and two, noticed a difference on the amount of construction or paving or anything road-wise in the last 6 years?
In the upstate, I noticed they're paving the roads in gold. Down here, not so much.
I've been seeing construction. I haven't really recognized it too much on the, as far as gas goes, but I've definitely been seeing road construction in different places, and I definitely know that South Carolina had the worst roads, like anywhere else I've been. I can tell when I hit South Carolina. If I come from up north, as soon as I hit 95, I can be halfway asleep, but when I hit South Carolina,
Compared to North Carolina,
Narrower and bumpier.
down 95, all of a sudden.
Well, in the last 10 years, and there was, again, I was at DOT conference today, there was a slide up there that Secretary Hall presented from. In 2013, they had $1.5 billion worth of the construction work that they were putting out yearly on the roads. They're about to open the bids in the next couple of days before the end of the year for the interchange at 26 and I-95 and that $300 or $400 million project, $600 million project, how much that is, that will bump them that they have $5 billion of work on the streets. And that's at the direct from that 12-cent hike. So they're making a lot of strides. They've got a lot of details that show it. I'm a roads guy. I see it and notice it. So to long term, that 12 cent made a tremendous difference in the from $1.5 to $5 billion worth of work value that they're putting out on a yearly basis. And the same would be any type of funding, whether it's half cent, 1 cent, whether it's 4 years or 25 years, it would make a difference. It
Yes.
just takes a little while to see it.
And because a number of us in here have been here decades, and
Speak for yourself, speak for yourself.
Okay, and I just think about it. I think about, and now we do have a lot of new residents in a certain town that I happen to live in that haven't been here long enough to know this. But my thought process as a resident, outside of this whole thing, walking into Reed, 25 years, 3.25 billion, which those numbers sound huge. My thought process when I see that is, thank God I don't have to vote for this thing every 4 years. Because what happens is we've been going up to 7%. We get through 4 years. It drops to 6% for 6 or 12 months. And then we bump it back to 7%. I don't know if the majority will think that way, but
Yeah,
it's just.
the point I make is, and I think this is true for virtually everybody, once that penny is in the mix, nobody knows it, nobody pays any attention to it. It's part of what you're doing. Nobody says, my God,
Just has to get it
that
in
Coke
there.
cost me, But, so,
I
Let's-
have a couple comments,
please,
and that would be, yes, I do notice the price of the gas pump because I'm very price conscious. No, I do not feel that any improvement has happened as a result of that, at least not in the Low Country, and I'm angry about it. And I'm embarrassed about it. And when people come here, they comment on how awful the roads are, and they comment on how cheap our gas is. And I'd rather see our gas be $1 more a gallon and get some roads that aren't gonna kill people. So I'm a very financially frugal human being, but I would vote for free pennies because it needs to get better here. It's not okay. Inevitable growth, this inevitable growth. I couldn't push back the hurricanes. I can't push back the people moving here. I've tried to raise that Whale Branch Bridge after I got here, and I have yet been able to do it. They're coming. So we have to do something. However, when you go and look at these referendums that have failed, it's a direct result of not trusting the people who are making the decisions. And that's where the brokenness happens. When Mr. Moss was our superintendent, he was plagued with lots of difficulties with ethics, and it showed in the results in the referendums. Same with the county council. We've just had our county manager fired. I mean, it's a crisis. We're in a crisis of conscience in this community of trusting our people. I think we need all 3 pennies. I think we should do all 3 pennies. They're not going to pass. because of what I'm speaking of. That's why they're not gonna pass, because of lack of trust. I think we need the $3.25 billion. I think that if we did the $3.25 billion, I'd say, thank God they're gonna finally do something about these godforsaken roads. That's what I would think. I would say, yes, please God, let me get around here and not die, because these roads are so atrocious. But the truth of the matter is 25 years is gonna scare, in my opinion, everyone off. You know, that lost, no one's ever gonna pay. No one in Beaufort County is ever going to pass a lost, ever, ever. We're too conservative and we don't trust the people that run our county. No one's gonna say, yeah, tax me forever and don't ever let it stop until we tell it to stop. You can take that off the books, because that will never pass in this community, ever. 25 years sounds a lot like that. What am I gonna give 25 years to these clowns who are running this place? That's what people are saying. I mean, I'm talking to people. So I think the best you can do is a penny. I think the best you can do is about 10 years, because that keeps it away from the B word, billion. It gets you to million, and hopefully in 10 years, you actually get things accomplished that people can see. We're not seeing that. That's why we're hearing things like, what happened? We already voted. Why all we got was a right turn lane at Walgreens, right? That's what we're hearing. So I'm just sharing with you what the people that are talking to me are. They're not going to go for. I would vote yes for all three of these, even being as frugal as I am, even being as cautious as I am with money. I would vote for all three of them, because we need them, in this community. But I don't think you're going to be able to convince other people that that money will be used wisely. So I think 10 years, transportation, one penny, and give this county the opportunity to prove to the constituents, this is what we did with your money. I think that's what's gonna do it. So that's kind of where I'm coming down. In my dream, I dream about this. I went home and dreamed about this. In my dreams, I want the 3 pennies.
Sorry.
Yeah, I know. Thanks a lot, Jared. But I want the 3 pennies. I want the 3 questions on the, I do. I think about going into the ballot, and saying yes to all 3, but I'm with you. No one's going to do that. They're going to go, forget these clowns. I'm not saying no to all of them, because that's human nature. So I think that that's my 2 cents on, my 1 cent on where I think we are. I wish we were not there. I wish we were at 3 pennies. And I do like the idea that Jared suggested, if we recommend 1 year, 1 penny, and if we recommend 10 years, and we can do whatever, I'll go with the consensus. I do think we should follow it up with, okay, once so many years passes and some things get done, then our recommendation is to then start building on that confidence. That's that, what is it, York, you told me? They have confidence up there. And by the way, their roads are beautiful. Upstate's beautiful. We come down here, you hit 95, 26, you're taking your life in your hands. It's shocking. But building that confidence. So that's what I would say. I would say to the electorate, we're going to do this. In a couple of years, we want to do this. Help us build up your trust. Let's work together to do what needs to be done for this community. So I don't think it's just the 1 penny, 10 years and walk away. I think it's the 1 penny, 10 years. And how about then in 3 years we do this, or in 8 years we do this, or in 5 years we do follow up with this. That would be how I would recommend to the council. So.
Okay, so I think we're in agreement that transportation is the transportation penny is the route we ought to pursue. So we have the proposal Jared made gives us 3.25 billion for 25 years.
Can I?
We go ahead.
Honestly, for 1 second.
Yeah.
I think we should still, I know we're about to focus in on this, but I think we should still have a conversation at some point about, should we recommend a capital, should we recommend an educational in a year or 2, or at this,
Yeah.
Like a larger project, like, okay, this year this, but in the next couple, I think
maybe it's boom, boom, boom,
I think we
or it's
should.
boom, 2 years, 3 years, or it's,
that's what I'm thinking.
or it's all in the same.
I would suggest that you make a detailed recommendation to council, and they can choose to pick or do whatever they want to with the
Yeah.
details. But if you give them fuzzy math, then
Right.
they've got to go and figure it out themselves later. Give them as much detail as you, as a group, can provide.
All right, well, here's my suggestion. I hear exactly what you're saying, and what you told me, what you told us just a few minutes ago was, at 10 years, we're looking at about 950.
50.
That's based upon where we are right now. Is that assuming a 5% growth rate over that period of time?
Yes, and what I'd really like to do is not give you the exact number right this second, because we have a question into the Department of Revenue. So now we're collecting green space and have been since May 1st. June doesn't really count, but now July, August, September, we have the first quarter of full collections. And I would like to take that and compare that to the previous collections and the future projections and make sure it aligns to give you the growth rate and the number, and I'll have that in a week or two.
Okay, so. go
It
ahead, Bruce.
may be a B word, it just depends, but I'll have a refined number shortly.
I don't think we need to be as scared of that. I hear what you're, I hear what you're saying.
I'm not that worried about it either.
Yeah.
I'm not, I think the years are also going to,
Yeah,
and then I think giving the chance of people seeing, here's what we're gonna do, here's the 10 years, be a little bit specific. It's nice to have buckets, but with buckets comes trust. Do we have the trust to someone to give us
If the bridge to
buckets?
Hilton Head was happening, if something major was
different.
happening,
Be
already
different.
started.
And by the time we get to the polls a year from now,
That's true.
there could be a lot more
Right.
yellow machines out there
Which is great.
rolling around on the
Can we
road.
rent a bunch to put it on? No.
We like the light on Hilton Head though,
You
what's
like
the first one?
Windmill Harbor.
Windmill Harbor,
Harbor.
right away, that's the
Some
first thing.
people like it, some people don't.
Some people
Well,
don't.
Okay.
All right, well, let me suggest,
Go ahead, Dan.
let me suggest that we kind of say to ourselves, okay, to this point right now, we're starting with transportation. That's where we're gonna focus. Jared's gonna prepare some updated estimates, so we can decide, we're gonna do 10 years, we're gonna do 15 years, we're gonna do 8 years, what are we gonna do? So let's talk about, let's kind of leave that there right now for the moment, until we get a little bit better data. And then what we'll have to do is we'll have to, if we say, okay, let's just assume it's 950 million, then we need to go back down into this list and start pairing it. So that's for another meeting, it's not for today.
Okay.
So what I'm gonna suggest is, let's talk about real quickly, it's 6:30. And Jared's been on the road all day, I've been on the road all day. Frankly, I could use a drink. That's another story.
So we're gonna dismiss this meeting and reconvene
Yeah.
down the road. No.
Let's just touch a little bit on the issue, since we're not gonna approach the capital penny. We're gonna leave the issue of the capital penny aside. But on this one, and let me check and see, because we did have, Jared, I think, on this one was the proposal to, if they have a transportation programs, our brother, sister counties would receive a share of these dollars. And I think that's something we need to talk about in some detail.
Do you mind if I ask a quick question? I think we can answer it pretty quickly. I don't mean to be difficult. Are we talking a penny? Is anyone here thinking about a quarter penny, half penny? Is anyone messing with a penny?
I'm not.
Are we all talking a penny?
I think we're all talking a penny right
Okay,
now.
I just want to get that out of the way. We're all talking one penny. We're not talking halves or quarters or anything like that. I beg your pardon.
Oh,
Okay,
no.
so, thank you.
I was supposed to answer that question.
That's right.
I understand what is proposed here. I understand the rationale behind it. How would it be explained on the ballot?
how would we describe on the ballot? Would we describe it on the ballot? That's the first question. And if we do, how would we explain and rationalize to our voters that, let's just say.
We go on paper road in Allendale.
Yeah, 16.67% of the money that you all are gonna put in the pot is gonna go out to Allendale, Hampton, Jasper, Colleton.
It would look something like this. Recognizing that we're interdependently connected, it is prudent to help our neighbors, our neighboring counties, so that we might all benefit from good transportation throughout the region.
It's where the workers come.
Basically, we travel those ways, those roadways, so we want those roadways good too.
Right. How good is it that the roads in Beaufort are great, and then I go down Argent Boulevard and I die? Because there's no,
You know what
You
the
know.
pessimist is gonna say?
Right.
The pessimist is gonna say that is the state's job.
It's the
It's
state's
the
job.
federal government's job. I'm not saying it is, I'm just saying that's what we're gonna run against.
Well,
I'm
But
looking
the
at how they're doing
idea,
it.
I'm all for it, I just.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
the idea of Beaufort being a donor county is not new. It's been a donor county statewide for a long time.
Forever.
So we send more to Columbia than we get back. So that whole concept is well established
I
already.
didn't know that.
Oh, yeah. Oh,
Keep
yeah.
my pennies then, I want my money back.
That's the way that's the way democracy works.
That is, so CTC is set up, we are a donor county, and so we collect more than we get back. And then they do give a plus up for donor counties. They have a special pot that they divide back. Now, it doesn't cover the amount that you put in, but it does plus you up a little bit more. So
And what
What does that mean?
acronym CTC, what is this?
County
means we still get
Transportation
money.
Committee, so out of the gas tax that you pay, 3.3 cents goes back to distribute amongst the 46 counties.
Yeah.
And so each county has a local committee where they distribute the funds. Beaufort County gets about $2.5 million. I don't know the number that we send, but out of the formula that they created, we get $2.5 million back, plus about $500,000 for being a donor county. So we get about $3 million a year.
And we probably send about 6.
Yeah.
I don't know that.
I know you don't know the exact number.
Yeah,
but-
easily.
And other counties, I mean, Charleston probably gets $1.5 million in donor funds back, so which still probably doesn't match up to what they send back to Columbia.
Is Charleston doing the same thing with Berkeley and Dorchester around them as
Not
far
that
as?
I'm aware of.
Is
Horry
anyone
County
doing
doesn't do it?
Not, the only people that would be doing it is the ones that are being done automatically in the local option sales tax
Yeah,
that
that's never
I'm
gonna-
aware of. And again, that is only if you're a donor county. If you're at Allendale and you do a local option sales tax,
You don't have.
you don't have that.
First
Do
of
you know
all,
the legality of this?
It is legal. You can spend sales tax money outside of the county.
so, I think the only way we would ever consider doing it, don't you agree, is if they had their equivalent penny sales tax pass, because I'm not helping somebody who will not help themselves, right? Correct, everybody? I mean, we wouldn't consider giving to a county that wasn't
Well,
paying forward some.
well, philosophically, they don't have, they don't have the capacity, or it wouldn't even
Have
benefit
the
them
capacity
to
to
do
do
it.
something.
Well, I mean, no, they might not collect much,
Right.
but they should be willing to try. I mean, in other words, I struggle to give to somebody who's sitting on the couch not going to work. I'm gonna go give to somebody who's going to work and just not getting paid very well, you know?
But if
I
I'm
get
on-
that.
If I'm on the couch and I'm disabled, then,
Okay, but not all of Allendale's disabled, not all of Hampton's
I know
disabled.
what I'm saying, but the county as the largest of disabled county as far as this opportunity is concerned. We are basically growing because of those counties.
Yeah.
Okay? That's.
Well, here's who's got what. Jasper has local option and, school district.
So they're at 8%.
Hampton has local option. Colleton has local option and the capital penny.
those, and then we included what? Included also Bamberg? No. Bamberg, Barnwell. Barnwell has local option and capital penny, and Bamberg has local option and capital.
Wait a minute, so what about Colleton?
Colleton has local option and capital penny.
I'm thinking about the 14th district. You would go further than the 14th district, than the 5 counties? I would stay in the 14th district.
It's
Yeah.
the counties that are, what is proposed are the counties that are in the Southern Carolina Economic Alliance, which is 7 counties, us, and then Jasper, Hampton, Allendale, Barnwell, Bamberg, and Colleton.
Cornwall and Bamberg are just added to the 14th circuit. Okay.
I don't know
I
about
get it. Yeah,
the circuits,
yeah.
but yeah.
Does that Robin Hood clause lose us votes?
I can't answer that.
Right. I think it'll lose us more than it'll get us.
I think, to your question earlier, what do you write? I don't think you write out the description that you said. I think you would, if it does make it to the list, you write simple donor, and then you explain in education materials how that donor would work. But that doesn't answer your question, so.
Does it jeopardize the question?
Right. As far as
If
our
it
voters.
jeopardizes the question, I don't think we support it. If it's neutral, okay. I don't think it's positive.
Well, if something Dean said a little while ago, it's where our workers come from. It's where, I mean, back when it was LRTA and now it's Palmetto Breeze, a good number of people ride those buses for 2 hours to come work in Bluffton now. They used to work in Hilton Head, but they don't have to go as far now.
So we're on Hilton Head, we're not gonna vote for it.
No.
But no, if it were to have a chance to have more voters for it than against it, it would have to be framed in my mind in that way.
Yeah.
The people that are coming to be a part of our community's workforce.
And that's a good point. I've heard Joe Passaman say many times, and I think it has traction, that from a public safety standpoint, evacuation routes may start in Beaufort County, but they all end someplace else.
Yeah. That's
But
right.
Tom, to your point, you weren't part of last year's committee, but last year's committee talked about a similar subject, but a different specific project, which was greenbelts. And greenbelts was discussed, is that a positive or a negative addition to the question? Because it's not a requirement that you list it as a project, but it is an allowable expense under transportation. So that was the
The
discussion.
Beaufort County Green Space sales tax allows the proceeds to be used outside of Beaufort County, does it not?
That's correct.
Do you know if there have been any purchases outside of Beaufort
I don't think
County?
they've made any
There haven't been any
purchases yet.
purchases
They
yet.
haven't.
There is a proposal that is gonna go before them to contribute to the purchase. And if I had a map, I'd point you to it, but at the top of Port Royal Sound, there's a huge parcel which is essentially being purchased by the Nature Conservancy, Trust for Public Lands, and some others, just basically to put into green space. And I know that proposal is gonna be put in front of the green space people. There are 2 or 3 others. The notion is effectively, in a sense, you can make a transportation argument with a lot of this, because 472 coming down from Ridgeland is a nightmare. And a huge amount of our folks come down from Ridgeland now. And there is all this undeveloped land along 472, between 472 and the Port Royal Sound. And there are developers standing there, ready to build. And the only thing I can tell you is, if you put houses on that property, those folks are not going to Ridgeland for groceries. You know, they're coming to Bluffton, they're coming, so the traffic issues are enormous. And that to me is one of the principal rationales for using those dollars to take lands in those corridors and put them under conservation easement and keep them from being developed, intensely developed.
But and we're working on traffic calming in Bluffton. I don't know if y'all have heard what council just passed. We've been working a while on this. They just passed economic incentives for certain businesses being built on the west side of Bluffton. Because what we have is we have people that live in New Riverside area and out there, they just got their first grocery store, but they still have to drive all the way to Hardyville or all the way across Bluffton to get to a doctor or to get to a service business to get to them. And so, different thing, but same issue. We're trying to make it so that there's shorter trips so that there's less strain on the roads. And I mean, if it's either got to be a bigger road or under conservation up there.
Well,
So I would say, in my experience, and forgive me if it's not your experience, but in my professional experience, I find that the minority of people are charitable, the majority are not charitable. So I do not find that donor is going to be a positive. I find that it might even be a negative. However, we're all driven by self-interest, and self-interest is, I want someone to come and do my dry cleaning. I want somebody to come and stock the shelves of our grocery. I want somebody to, I don't know, they used to pump gas, but whatever the service is that I want that done. So if you phrase this, not in fact how I'm going to transport myself, but rather how people who are going to serve our interests are going to get here, maybe that would be, I'm sorry to be so negative about the human character, but I believe it's true.
But I
This is
also
why this
think,
is right. Questions on the table. We've got
but
to
I also
wrestle.
think, right, the last time we had to evacuate, and I got to Allendale, maybe, I had to take a detour.
Yeah.
Right, I had to take a detour.
Right, the train.
So that's, that still affected us. You see what I'm saying? It's right there. It still affects us, and it's still something that drives close to home if you're talking about that, and if you even put that in there, emergency or transportation, because plenty of times accidents on 95, I jump off and I get on 472, and I'm stuck. I'm stuck because everybody knows that route too. If they're from around here, one way or the other, I'm stuck, and it's still a bad road. So these things still can be put out there that touch us. I don't think it's far-fetched that these things touch us. And I guess I have a question too. We're donors, right? Do we have a say-so when this money goes to other counties as to how it's used?
Well, so that's all,
Input?
no, that's all up for,
Oh, there's always a string,
well, yeah, so
always a string attached.
there's no details. We're in the land of unknown. So this is, the money has to be used for what the statute says, period. Then how you go about administering that can be discussed.
I get that, but I'm just saying.
I would offer that it's a grantor grantee relationship that the county Beaufort County would allow you to use it for any of the uses, but would verify that because the county, Beaufort County is the one collecting it, that would be responsible if it's used illegally. So,
There's that.
Carol points is a good point, and I was thinking the same thing, but I believe in the overall picture of the overall effectiveness of what we are trying to do, not only in Beaufort County, but regionally. And your point as far as the majority is saying no to that concept could be a killer.
I think the word donor is the word, but really that's self-serving.
Huh?
To be out there, that's still self-serving. To make those roads better, it's still self-serving to anybody who goes.
Yeah, but the voters who are gonna vote on the referendum are not people that use that road every day like you do, or like some of us do on a daily basis. The voters that's gonna have the biggest impact on the outcome of the referendum are voters that are, the hell, I'm not gonna give money to Beaufort.
They just gonna use 95, right?
County, because they don't understand the scenario, okay? And I'm afraid of that. It's a good concept, and personally, yes, but I don't think the voting public.
one thing I think to consider on your point, which is a very good point, is we're talking about the voters. more than likely there will be groups that support this concept, not the donor fund, but the whole penny.
Yeah, right.
And there will be groups that more than likely take a position against it. So to your point, the voter's going to hear up from different inputs before they go to the polls, and they're going to hear, somebody's going to latch on to part they like people might latch on to the green belt in a positive manner, and people might latch on to a specific word or a project, or so that I understand what you're saying.
They can latch on negatively as well as positively.
That's right.
Well, and I believe that if we said donor, giving, benefiting others, that's gonna be negative because most people don't wanna do that. Most people have self-interest. I'm guilty of it myself. But if we word that exact same thing as workforce assistance and evacuation assistance, now that's gonna help me. Now, I don't have to travel those roads to care that when I'm at the fancy dining room at the Cypress on Hilton Head, like my parents used to be, and I sit down to a beautiful meal every single day, someone's cooking it, someone's serving it, someone's cleaning up. I don't know where they're coming from or how they're getting there, but I know that I want that service. If I'm at Brays Island or if I'm at Spring Island, I want that service. I might not travel these roads, but I want that workforce to be there. And then and of course, evacuations, I mean, my gosh, any of us who've lived here in the past, handful of years, we all got to experience that intensely for like 3 years in a row. For those of us who remember that, that's a hairy, crazy time, and I want it to work. I don't want to have I don't want a detour in Allendale around the train tracks and down the neighborhood and then back. That's crazy, you know?
You're gonna show me you're gonna build an evacuation road that's gonna go one way, and so I can get to Augusta, so I can
Yeah.
get.
Right.
So,
But that's the mentality that Tom and I always hear, you know? And the other thing, my point is that, first of all, a lot of folks don't wanna pay the penny. And we wanna give them as least, or as least
true.
as much to complain about the penny.
Got it.
Okay?
I mean,
So that's
you know,
my point.
the new age group, all right, they use Waze. Y'all know about Waze? Okay, that's exactly what Waze. Every time something's wrong on that road, you take into a detour.
Right?
And hopefully, when you get to that detour, you trying to get to that detour because you know what's in front of you is bad. But at the same time, you want to get over here and be able to travel.
Yeah, but
But I know.
Can't do it because
Oh,
everyone
I'm
has
saying,
Waze.
I'm saying, if you talking about that road, they're gonna lean into that road. And I'm not the only one that touches that side road. And I don't touch it daily, but I touch it enough to know. And I'm not the only one. Because plenty of times I go down 95 and there's an accident. This happens. I used to work in Savannah. I stopped using 95 simply because when I get up to the exit 8, there's an accident. So I take the Talmadge and come across. And this is for years. And I did that over 10 years.
you're a young man,
Oh, no.
have that ability.
Here comes the wizard.
Have that ability, but 70% of the people,
And if my mom was on that road, I'd want her to take the road.
you would
and I
want
know
her to
would
take
her.
it, but she's
She
not
will
going.
take it too.
She's
She's
not-
older than you.
Yeah, she's
My mom was
not.
90, she's still driving.
But she's not gonna
Okay.
complain, she's gonna complain
I was
about,
talking to you.
she's gonna complain about,
And she's not gonna wanna get on the road to where she's gotta fight
but,
the
but
traffic, the road, and the deer, and on top of that, the Farmer Brown's cows. I'm just saying,
grant,
you wanna be able to
I
travel.
grant you, you're right on target, I grant you, but I'm not gonna pay an extra penny not knowing that
What's
that
a
road is
penny?
not gonna be there.
All right.
Well, I think the
We-
point
we
is,
try-
I
we
think the
try.
point is well taken though,
I
that
got you,
even
I
though
got
we
you, I
can
got you.
maybe
Control of this
put it
room.
into some words that are more palatable,
Right.
anything that you say may detract from the penny would be a problem. And I think that's a good point.
But you can change the verbiage to make it work.
Yes,
Maybe.
that's the
Change the
key.
verbiage.
That's the key. That's gonna be our challenge.
Right,
Because to the extent we get down to the point where we're putting this thing down on paper, we're the ones that are gonna have to, I think, be the drafters of, at least the essence drafters of that question. The lawyers will take it from us and do what the hell they wanna do, but we'll be in a position to say, this is how we think this ought to read. This is what we're trying to do, and therefore we wanna say it this way. So, we're gonna get to that. But what I'm gonna do is suggest that it's just about 7 o'clock. I think we've talked a lot today, we've made some decisions, and we've kind of get ourselves to the point now where I think Jared's gonna do some work in terms of giving us some numbers, additional revised numbers to work with. And the next meeting, we'll start taking this proposed transportation penny list and start taking it apart and putting it back together again.
Very good.
Councilwoman, do you want to offer anything, say anything here? Thank you for being here. Anything you want to
Well,
offer?
frankly, I'd go for the 3 pennies, but I agree. I don't know that people would pass it, but it's all in how we sell it. We know roads, we know transportation is gonna be number 1. But I also know we have capital projects lists longer than this table 5 times over, especially Parks and Rec. 100 million over 10 years, I remember the consultant. And then there's always education. I'm an educator. If this referendum goes down, we have another problem.
Oh, that changes our conversation.
Yeah, that might change our conversation.
I'm hopeful it'll pass, but in Sun City, it's a no-go, because you know what you said about, they equate the school district with the county. They don't get it, we're separate. And so they're saying right now the county can't get their act together, why would I give the school money?
Oh.
So you have to be careful of how people think of this.
Well, I mean, you just said recreation, right? The first thing I think of is an $800 million
Right.
play set and a
Exactly.
woman who's fired. That's the minute you said recreation, I'm like, wow, we just had a major scandal.
It was only $800,000.
Well, it felt like it.
I know.
And it's not.
No, we will always make it a
800,000,
million.
excuse me, I
Can I
misstated.
raise one final
Make it a
subject,
million.
please? Okay, I know Antron does not want to hear this, but we had a discussion in that first meeting about possibly having a couple of meetings down in the Bluffton area or the Hilton Head area.
Yes.
Do we think we can explore doing that?
My wife is calling.
I would,
I'll
should've said your
carpool, I got a
children
car, I
calling
can
you.
carpool
if
if anyone's
it's
from
considered,
Beaufort.
it's just gotta be a place where we can broadcast and can set up. And
Bluffton Council Chambers.
Bluffton Library.
it's plausible.
I mean, to be fair, you know,
Plausible and staff.
I come across the bridge,
Accommodate.
it takes me 5 minutes to get here and I still come.
Carol,
1
what's your
minute
feeling
late,
on this?
so.
I'm Sierra, not
That's
Carol.
Sierra.
That's Carol.
That means you
Oh,
Sierra.
Tell them how you really
The
feel.
majority, who all says yes, I say yes. I
You
like
got 2
both.
from Hilton Head
I say yes
and
for
we're letting
both.
your vote.
I'm Sun
I'm not on the
City,
committee,
so.
so you know, we gotta go with getting them to say.
Don't make me move to do all the meetings down there.
I mean, you're coming from Hilton Head, right, every day,
It
every
makes
time?
no sense to go to Hilton Head. Bluffton would be good.
I mean, I'm just saying, you're coming from Hilton Head,
Yes.
correct? You're coming from Bluffton, you're gonna come from Sun City,
Sun City.
Bluffton,
Hilton Head.
you're coming from Hilton Head. Beaufort, right?
I'm just asking for
You're coming from Waterboro.
2 out of 10.
It's out.
You're getting paid.
Why don't we,
I think it's fair for us to kind of work with these guys over here.
why don't we do this?
Sorry. Sorry,
You
buddy.
work halfway between here and there.
I know, I come home afterwards. It's coming on.
We got the Zoom too, you can attend that with us.
Oh, that's true. You could do Zoom.
Zoom
You could
is
do
not the
Zoom.
Don't give him an out. I want him down in Bluffton.
Zoom is not the same.
Why not?
Fine.
I got my
I don't
headphones
get to see it.
and my popcorn.
Well,
Don't get to see it.
I'm gonna formalize this a little bit. How many people would be supportive of scheduling a meeting in Bluffton for next week?
Next week.
Next week.
Yay.
Wait just a minute, let me,
Doesn't matter with me.
give me
you know.
1 minute, Dean.
You gotta choose.
Doesn't matter.
A meeting.
Well,
Two talk. Let's get him to the first one. He'll see how good it is.
that's my point. We won't commit, we're not committing to.
That's a terrible one for me, because I have a
Make sure y'all
church
sell it
council
to
meeting.
them real well.
All right, well, we can make it
2 weeks.
2 weeks.
Yeah, I don't mean to put a stick in the spokes. I just have to be at a church council
Oh,
meeting that night.
that might help me, because I've got it.
So the 16th.
That might help me, because I've got a meeting in.
Maybe you'll be
Yeah,
on
that'd be
time.
fine.
So let's
That'd be fine, the 16th.
let's go ahead, Jared, and see what we can find and do a meeting down. The library is always good as far as I'm concerned.
Well, I can talk, I'm meeting with the town manager next Wednesday. I can talk to him about council chambers if it's
Council
open
chambers would be
too.
fine. I mean,
And,
Then we can all sit up on that
16?
plat.
16.
Is that okay, the 16th?
Yeah,
Next week we'll be here.
Yeah, it will be either way.
Thank you so much for accommodating me.
All right?
So the 16th will be south of the Broad.
He's still giving the bad eye over there.
So let's,
I voted, sir, sorry.
unless there's something else that is significant that needs to be talked about this evening, and if everybody's in agreement, I'd like a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
I have a motion, I have a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, we are adjourned. Thank you very much.